everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to teach you a life skill that every baseball fan needs to know. Do you struggle to stay off of your phone during baseball games? Do you want to be a hot baseball mom or a hot baseball dad at your son or your daughter's baseball or softball games? Do you want to remember every little detail from the Boston Red Sox at LA Angels game in May of 2023 for absolutely no reason at all? Well then listen, I, Professor Swilly, am here to help because I am going to teach you how to keep score at a baseball game. Keeping score at a baseball game is something that I think every baseball fan should try at least once. It's a great way to stay engaged. Again, it's a great way to stay off of your phone. You have to kind of pay attention a little bit more than you might otherwise. And look, I'm just saying, I kept score at quite a few Angel games last year, and they only lost one game that I kept score at. So if you keep score at your favorite team's baseball games, they may never lose again. Yeah, sure, you can use an app like Game Changers or iScore, but we look at screens all the time for hours a day. So why add to that when you can just go classic pen and paper, baby? And you get to bring home a little souvenir. Imagine if you get to keep score at a no-hitter. Imagine if you get to score keep your favorite player's milestone home run, milestone hit, milestone strikeout. You get to say that you score kept at that game, and you will remember it for a very long time. I pinky promise you. If you liked the tutorial, if you found it helpful, feel free to let me know by leaving a like on the video and subscribe if you're interested in more baseball content. I am going to do my best to cover pretty much every scenario that you would need to know, but I will probably miss something because baseball is a funny sport that way. So if you have any questions or if you feel like I did not explain something well enough, definitely let me know and I will do my best to help you out. So without further ado, let's get into it.
This is before the game. Rhys Hoskins in the Brewers dugout. Going back to his...
There are plenty of entry points into keeping score. You do not need to invest in a thick baseball scorebook. You can start with a nice, simple, free PDF that you can find on Google, print it out at your FedEx for like 10 cents a piece, and start there. I have included a few links down below of some free score sheet PDFs if you are interested. Otherwise, you could probably just Google it and find more. But the ones that I have down below are ones that I've used in the past when I was just getting into scorekeeping. Really, I can pretty much recommend every scorebook, but some of them can be a bit overwhelming if you're just getting into scorekeeping for the first time. Dick's Sporting Goods has notebooks that are probably the cheapest. They have ones with 20 games for $12.99, which is about 65 cents a game. Last year, I used the Square Scorebook, which is on Etsy. Supporting small businesses is always fun, so I highly recommend. The Square Scorebook was $30 for 60 games, which equates to about 50 cents a game. And this year, I will be using Bob Carpenter's Baseball Scorebook, which is a popular one in Major League Baseball. This one is $30 for 100 games. This one is more compact, as is the Square Scorebook one, which I enjoy. The Dick's Sporting Good ones and like the Rawlings ones, they're massive. So bringing it to a baseball game might not be the most convenient, but if you're doing it at home or if you're stat keeping for like a high school team or something like that, then something similar to that where you can just input all of the information that you could possibly think of might be more up your alley in the future. To start off, I highly recommend something like the Bob Carpenter Scorebook or the Square Scorebook on Etsy. I will link all of these down below.
You're going to have that five-man infield.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I teach you one thing about keeping score and this silly little game of bat to ball, it is that the position numbers are the only thing that must be consistent at all times. You must stick to position numbers while keeping score. Everything else is rather elusive, just depending on how casual or how intense you want to keep score. Yes, it is true. Pretty much everything else that you do when you keep score can be unique or specific based on the person. However, position numbers are sacred. It can be kind of a doozy to remember, but don't worry, I have created the chicken method for you, and you will never forget position numbers again. Yes, the chicken method. You heard me right. Let me set the scene for you. You're looking down on a baseball field, like the baseball gods that you wish existed. Starting with the pitcher, we'll work our way around the field to form the profile of a chicken and name each position 1 through 9. The pitcher is number 1, catcher is 2, first base is 3, second base is 4, third base is 5, shortstop is 6, left field is 7, center field is 8, and right field is 9. And as you can see, this makes the cutest little side profile of a chicken with its waddle. I may be the first person to invent the chicken method, and if this blows up and you steal my chicken method, you will be hearing from my lawyers. If you have a more logical brain, you can think about it in a more logical way. The pitcher always starts with the ball, and he always throws it to the catcher, who is number 2. We will then run down the first base line to first base, which is 3. Then you will run to second base, which is 4. Then you will run to third base, which is 5. You cannot forget the shortstop, but they don't have a base, so they're last because they're not cool enough to have their own base. Left field is directly behind shortstop, and then we will round out the rest of the outfield by going to center field and then right field. We'll use these numbers quite a bit throughout the scorekeeping process, so it's important to memorize these. A lot of scorebooks will have little cheat sheets inside of them as well, just in case you forget. I know it seems a little intense, but you will catch on and you will remember rather quickly, I promise.
Like a little Easter cosplay to get into the holiday spirit.
Let's fill out a score sheet together. You'll do this before each game starts after teams release their official lineups. Be aware that changes can happen pretty much anytime before the lineups are officially submitted to umpires right at game time. So if you complete this step before you leave for the ballpark, it is possible that something may change. I remember specifically last year in April, I wrote down the lineup and guess who got removed like 15 minutes before game time. Yeah, you guessed it, Anthony Rendon. I was not very happy about it, but that's besides the point. I am cutesy and artsy-fartsy, so I like to use different colors to indicate different things, but you certainly do not have to. For example, I like to use different colors to differentiate between right-handed hitters, left-handed hitters, and switch hitters. I also recommend using pen and not pencil, mainly because pencil smears, and crossing things out and making little mistakes and little doodles makes each score sheet unique, in my opinion at least. If you want that ability to erase, then absolutely go for it. I'm not going to tell you that you can't use pencil, but for me personally, I find when I go back and look at score sheets and I've used pencil, it smears and smudges, and I don't really like the way that that looks. So maybe pencil when you're just learning, and then once you feel like you kind of have a grasp on everything, then you can go ahead and use pen. What do you think, Bo? Do you want to keep score with me, or? Tonight the music sings so loud. Let's talk about fielding outs first. The nice thing about fielding outs is that you're going to indicate these with a letter and then the subsequent numbers of fielding positions after. This one is pretty easy to grasp, but we will go over each one individually. Let's start with a line out. A line out is basically a line drive that is hit right at a player. You'll know a line out when you see it. You can indicate a line out with the letter L followed by the position number of the player who caught the ball. For example, the batter hits a line drive at the shortstop catches it without it falling to the ground. You would indicate this play in your score sheet as L6, a line out to the shortstop. Let's talk about pop flies versus flyouts. A flyout is a ball hit in the air to an outfielder, and a pop fly is a ball hit in the air to an infielder. A flyout will be indicated with the letter F and then whichever outfielder caught the ball. For example, a ball that is hit to the right fielder in the air without it falling on the ground would be indicated as F9. A pop fly out, same thing, except you're going to indicate it with the letter P. A ball that is hit in the air without it touching the ground to the second baseman would be indicated as P4. Let's talk about a ground out next. A ground out is when the ball is hit on the ground and you throw it to a base to get a runner out. Ground outs are a little bit different. All you're going to do is write down the position numbers of the players who touched the ball when the out was made. For example, a ground ball that is hit to the third baseman and thrown to the first baseman to get the runner out at first is going to be a 5-3 ground out. Let's talk about a double play really quick. You may be familiar with the term 6-4-3 double play. This basically indicates that a ball was hit to the shortstop, then the shortstop threw it to the second baseman, and then the second baseman threw it to the first baseman to get 2 outs, a 6-4-3 double play. In this particular game, our double play example is a little bit different, but it indicates a similar thing. The ball was hit to the first baseman, he then threw it to the shortstop to get the out at second, and then the shortstop threw it back to the first baseman to get the out at first for a double play. This is indicated in the scorebook as a 3-6-3 double play. With all of these principles in mind, you should be able to kind of score keep each individual scenario just by using process of elimination. But I'll share a crazy out for fun. So this is a really fun one. There's runners at the corners, runners at first and third, one out. Tyler Anderson strikes out the batter. Chad Wallach, who's the catcher, throws it to the second baseman to try to get the out at second because the runner is trying to steal. They don't catch that runner, but Rafael Devers breaks from third to try to score at home. Rengifo is the second baseman, throws it back home, catches the runner stealing. Inning is over. Double play on a strikeout and caught stealing at home. You could do this two different ways, depending on how you want to do it. You would indicate the strikeout, which we'll talk about in a minute, but then you can either indicate this next out with CS, which stands for caught stealing, or you could say 2-4-2. The catcher had the ball first, threw it to the second baseman threw it back home, and they caught the runner trying to break and steal home. Again, you can do this any way that you want. If you're looking for something simple, I would just stick with caught stealing, but I like 2-4-2. It's more fun and it's more memorable for me. So that's what I wrote down when I initially score kept this game.
2-2 to Castellanos. And a fastball just a bit high, according to Bruce Dreckman. Castellanos was walking back to the dugout to drop his bat in his helmet.
In this particular book that I have, I do not have a place to keep pitch counts. Here's the beauty. You don't have to keep the pitch count if you don't want to. I typically do like to. I'll just include it inside the box. But if you look at other scorebooks, they will have little boxes where you can indicate with X's or dashes or dots what the count was when the batter got out or when the batter got their hit. Again, it's completely up to you. Even if the scorebook has that, you don't have to do it. It's up to you. But the two things that are going to be constant are strikeouts looking and strikeouts swinging. A strikeout swinging, meaning the batter had 2 outs, they swung and missed at a ball, they're out, 3 strikes, you're out, is going to be indicated with a K. And then a strikeout looking, which means that the ball was called a strike on strike 3, that's going to be a backwards K.
Like a little Easter cosplay to get into the holiday spirit.
Yes. He visited down to the pregame show today also.
Oh, very.
Let's talk about all of the ways that a batter can reach base and how we would indicate that in a score box. The batter is getting a base because of how many balls they got. They got 4 balls, so they get a base. They get a base on balls, BB would be the abbreviation for that. So when a batter reaches base on a walk, you will indicate that in the scorebook as BB, base on balls. Let's talk about hits next. There are a few ways that you can indicate this if you would like to. I will include a few different picture examples instead of explaining each one, but basically you can draw arches where the ball was hit. You can put little dashes on the outline of the diamond. There are lots of different ways that you can do it. It is up to you how you do it. I personally like to just put 1B, 2B, 3B, home run, but again, up to you. So in this particular example, Rafi Devers drops a little bloop single into right center. You're going to indicate a line from home to first, and you could put 1B. You can put 1 dash in the middle of the line to indicate a single. It's up to you, baby. Let's talk about errors versus hits super quick. The way that you would indicate this in a scorebook is with the letter E, followed by whoever made the error. So this particular example is a really good example that I like to talk about in order to kind of talk about the difference between an error and a hit. This ball was hit pretty hard at Zach Neto. He did kind of botch the ball a bit, but errors versus hits, it's really up to the discretion of the scorekeeper. When I first kept score in this game, I did indicate this as an error. I was sitting in left field. I didn't realize how hard the ball was hit, so I thought that he just booted the ball. The official scorekeeper counted it as a hit. That's because the ball was hit really hard. It's really up to you. You don't have to follow the official scorebook if you felt like something was kept incorrectly. Going back and looking at this though, I probably would have scored it as a base hit, to be honest. But because Zach Neto made the error, you would score keep that not as a hit. It's an error. That's how they reached base. You would mark it as E 36. Now, let's say on this hit, a run scores. There's an RBI, baby. The way that you will indicate a run scoring, I like to color in the completed trip around the diamond. It makes it really easy for me to just see it on the paper and count how many runs were scored. That's what I recommend, but you can also indicate it with a little star. You can indicate it with a highlighter. It's really however you see fit. I think the diamond way is really simple though, and just it makes it pop off the score sheet. So in this example, for an RBI, there is a runner on second base. Jarren Duran hits a ball down the left field line, hits a double, and scores the runner. So you would put RBI in this particular box so that you know when you're at the end of the game and you're writing down all of the stats that Jarren Duran is the one who got the RBI. You can really write it wherever you want. I don't think there's typically a space for RBIs, but you would write down RBI, and again, you would color in that square for the runner because they made a full little trip around the bases. RBI, by the way, stands for runs batted in. So a run was batted in by Duran because he got a hit and then the runner scored. Let's say a runner steals a base. Very simple. A runner steals second base. Next to that line from first to second base, you're going to indicate that stolen base with SB, which stands for stolen base. Let's talk about sacrifice hits super quickly. A sacrifice hit is essentially when a batter sacrifices their own at-bat in order to advance a runner. It doesn't have to be a runner that scores. It can be a runner advancing to any base. So for example, for most sacrifice hits, the runners are going to either be on second or third base. The batter will then sacrifice their own at-bat by hitting something deep into the outfield to give the runners an opportunity to tag up and then move to the next base. Because they sacrificed, it doesn't count as an at-bat, and you would write that down as a SAC. So let's say the pitcher hits a batter and that's how they advance to the next base. It's not technically a walk. It's obviously not a hit. You would scorekeep that as HBP, hit by pitch. Sometimes I like to think about it from a logical perspective like that. Sometimes when you just hear HBP, RBI, SAC, you're like, what does that mean? So when you know the actual meaning behind it, it can make it a little bit easier for you.
If you get hit, you're out. Oh.
Let's talk about substitutions really quick and how you would indicate that in a scorebook. Some scorebooks are going to show or have multiple lines underneath one batter, so you can write down the batter replacing another batter in a lineup. So the bottom of the fourth comes around and we see a substitution. The way that you would indicate that is, at least the way that I do it, if there's a pitching change, you would write PC in the score box of where that pitcher was replaced. After that batter gets on, you would write PC in the next box so that you know, okay, there was a pitching change during this player's at-bat. This is helpful for you when you want to include the pitcher information at the end of the game. You're gonna do the same thing for a pinch hitter or a player that's coming in to substitute a batter. Once you notice that there is a pinch hitter, you're going to write PH into the score box that you're gonna be using for this hitter. So at the end of the game, when you're collecting all of the stats, you have an indicator of when the new batter actually came into the game. So at the end of the half inning, you're gonna have an opportunity to write down some stats. Most scorebooks are gonna want you to write down the runs, the hits, and the runners left on base. Some scorebooks also include errors. After the half inning is over and the teams are switching sides, this is gonna be where you're gonna write down all of this information. So you'll write down the amount of runs, you'll write down the amount of hits, and then you will write down the number of runners left on base. A runner left on base is essentially a runner that is still on a base that did not get to score at the end of an inning. So at maximum, you'll have 3 runners left on base at the end of any given inning. In this scenario, we're going to be looking at it from a team perspective, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you to kind of understand what a runner left on base is. Let's say that there are runners on first and second after the third out is made. That's 2 runners left on base. They were not able to score, so you'll indicate that as 2 next to LOB, left on base. Hey guys, post-production Swilly here. I make an appearance at least once a video because somehow I yap, but I forget things. Like, I don't understand how I yap and just talk so much, but I still manage to leave things out. When you are done with that half inning, make sure that you leave a little dash or a little indicator so that you know where to start when the inning turns over. If the third batter in the lineup was the third out, you should leave a little dash or a little mark at the bottom of that score your box and then cross out the rest of the boxes underneath it so that when it's the next inning, you know, okay, the fourth batter is the batter that's leading off the next inning. I used to do this all the time. I used to forget, and then I would just keep going down the line, and then I would get the innings mixed up, and it was a nightmare. So that's really, really important. Don't forget to do that.
And the ball game is over.
Once the game is concluded, you have the opportunity to fill in a bunch of different stats depending on the scorebook that you're using. You can do this at the ballpark if they'll allow you, if there's enough time. I've gotten kicked out before I was able to finish, so it's up to you whether or not you are okay with that interaction with an usher. Pre-pitch clock, you might have had the opportunity to kind of fill in some of this stuff, especially the pitcher stats, but because innings are so much quicker now, you kind of have to save some of that stuff for the end. So as far as pitching numbers go, you're gonna follow your scorekeeping, plus when you added the change indicators to add all stats up. Let's say there are 4 pitchers that were used in a particular game. You will have all of their names written down in the scorebook, the amount of innings that they pitched, any hits, runs, walks, and strikeouts that they had. Keep in mind, for innings, the innings are kept on an out basis, not a mathematical basis. And what I mean by that is every out that a pitcher gets equals a third of an inning. So if a pitcher got 5 outs total, they pitched 1 2/3 innings. Even if it took them 4 at-bats to get one of those outs, it doesn't matter. Every out equates to 1/3 of an inning. You will indicate this as 1.1, 1.2, or 2.0 for a complete 2 innings for 6 outs as an example. You could put 1 and then 1/3 too. That, again, up to you, up to what you want to do, but official scorebooks use the decibel method in that way. Hitters are the same thing. You're going to include at-bats, runs, hits, and RBIs that these batters got. You'll add it up at the end of the game because, well, it can get a little confusing if you're doing it during. Some scorebooks will include other information that you can input at the end of a game. For example, the Bob Carpenter book includes a winning pitcher, losing pitcher, and save box. I look at the MLB app for that. You can include the attendance if you'd like. That information is also included in the MLB app. Most ballparks will announce it at some point, but you might miss it. So there you have it. You are a certified scorekeeper, baby. Look, I'm not a professional, but I am a baseball nerd. And I love keeping score games because it keeps me engaged and off of my phone. I probably didn't explain everything in a way that a Major League Baseball scorekeeper would, but I'm pretty sure I was pretty accurate on everything. I'm just a girl. I'm not an official scorekeeper. I would love nothing more than for you guys to tag me in your posts, in your scorekeeping sheets. It would make my heart so full to know that more people are keeping score at baseball games. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you don't want to miss any more baseball content from me. Thank you so much. I love you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And don't forget to not let sports affect your mental health. I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye.